Mm. Good morning, loves. I'm having a pear for breakfast. I originally started to rant, or was going to, but my washing machine was on the spin cycle. So I started my breakfast while I waited. Mm. Welcome to Big Cris Rants, aka whatever it ends up being. It's a lot of times just a vent session for me to kind of check in with myself. Because thinking about things is not enough for me. Actually hearing myself say the things that I'm thinking about makes a whole lot of difference. And you never know if somebody else is going through what you're going through. Um, unless you say something, right? And then Daddy says God can't fix what you won't face. So, in an attempt to rant and just go off the dome, have my release. A lot of times it reveals to me in the moment some clarity on things that I've internalized, or have been worrying about, ruminating on, that I didn't realize. Um, Ultimately helping myself in the long run, and maybe somebody else along the way. I really tried to get on here before I had therapy today, because last 7 days were trash. Um, as far as my emotional health, my physiological health, my physical health. I really just was struggling a lot this week. I think the last time I posted something was the 85-15 parenting. Yeah, that really knocked me off of wherever I had my footing, and I'm just now regaining some sort of balance since then. But all it did was add on to all of the stress from last week and anxiety. I used the metaphor of the things that I internalize, the things that bear down heavy on me, are heavy weighted, um, as each individual like ball. So if you think of a ball and chain, right? The chain, the metal bracket, that's how the metal is clamped onto like your foot or your ankle, and then you have that chain, and then there's a ball, which is a weight, and another chain and another ball. And so throughout the week I felt like I was picking up an additional chain and ball um on this weight, and it was literally dragging me. Like I could not connect like I wanted to, um and be present in the moment. And it's so irritating to have things go on in your life and you were there, but it's the shell of you. Like being so withdrawn, whether intentionally or not. In this case, for me, I really, really, really wanted to experience and feel. And it wasn't like general numbness, like I'm used to, because I feel like I know the difference between me being numb, being withdrawn, but I really felt like there was a barrier that would allow for me to see and to hear what was going on, but not to taste or to touch or to feel or to smell or to connect emotionally with what was going on. And it was, oh my God, it was so irritating. Um, but today, one of the things that kind of was not fun, well, not fun. One of the things that I had planned to do that I wasn't able to do is prepare for therapy. Um, I don't know. I want to say for a very long time, I got in my head that there's a certain type of preparation for everything, right? Um, if you've ever had kids, when I got pregnant with my son, my mom bought me, I don't remember, my mom or my sister, they got me the book, What to Expect While You're Expecting. And so for every stage of your pregnancy, it kind of prepares you. Um, And then even, when the baby is born and even after the fact, there's different programs that gave me literature for what to expect over the first 5 years and just things of that matter. And so taking that into consideration, I feel like I've made that a part of who I am. And I try to prepare in some kind of way. It might not be as extensive as others, but like for people who like go to work, right? They might pull out their clothes and iron it the day before, right? That's a form of preparation. For me, a lot of times mentally, um, as an athlete in high school, one technique that Coach Hannah showed me that was very effective for me was visualizing, right? I would see what it is that I wanted my body to do. I used to triple jump in high school, a long jump, and a couple other things. But I remember specifically when it came time to PR and triple jump in preparation of qualifying for state, no, for regionals in preparation for state. He started to show me different techniques that would isolate, how do I go through this transition. And he gave me videotapes to use. He showed me isolating exercises, and he would videotape me, right? So I could see what I was doing and I could see what I wanted to do. So I had a videotape of what I was doing so I could see when I do this, this is what I do this, it feels like this, and this is what it looks like. Um, and he could show me what the goal was, right? Watching professional athletes uh, do that same event, do that same activity. And he would show me, oh, well, your body is doing this, your knees doing this, your ankles doing this, your toe is doing this. And I can hone in to what it looks like, what it feels like when I would do stuff. And so that whole being able, once I was able to connect, when I do this, it feels like this and it looks like this, make those three connections. It was very effective for me to visualize. So in my head, I would see, oh, you're going to run like this. Your toes going to do this. Your ankle's going to do this. Your knees going to do this. Your hip flexors are going to do this, right? And be able to step by step visualize those things before I did it, right? Kind of preparing my mind and my body for what it is I needed them to do. And it really kind of just pulled everything together, my thought process, my breathing, my control over my body, and my execution. And so I do a lot of that now in preparation for my day. So if I have an appointment across town, I'll visualize myself in traffic. Crazy enough, I'll visualize myself being cool, calm, collective, right? I have appointments in Adelanto and Santa Clarita a couple times out of the year. And so because I know I get to go through the mountains and I know I get to see different parts of the city and the county, I prepare myself for the drive and what traffic may be ahead um, by preparing myself to be calm and safe going through those travels, right? And so I like to mentally visualize things. And that's usually how I prepare. A lot of times is I'll prepare topics, right? When you know that you're going to have a meeting, you might have prepared presentation, like a PowerPoint, or you might have notes or cue cards or 3x5 index cards or what have you. And so however you choose to prepare is all your own. But I've noticed that there's a few things that I tend to do. In the same respect, I prepare for therapy. When it's one-on-one therapy, group therapy, not so much. Um, unless I know like the talking points ahead of time, or I know I have a question about something, I will prepare myself on how I word things. Or but anyway, how I prepare for one-on-one therapy is I check in with myself, right? um a lot of times I find that I'm going through my day for everybody else, like my children, which is not a bad thing. But when it comes to therapy, for me, it's working on things about me and for me, not so much my children. And so it's important to me to check in with myself. So I'll be like, okay, Brandy, let's check in with yourself, right? How do you feel? What are you thinking? And I literally, whatever first thing comes to my mind, and I'll kind of dwell on it for a little bit. How do you feel about that? And I do this because In therapy, you have to talk about yourself. And if you're not used to talking about yourself in a certain way, it takes some warming up. And I can be overzealous often. I can be an overachiever, or try to be an overachiever and strive to be an overachiever a lot. And this might be an extension of that. But for me, if I've already given myself a warm up or an icebreaker, I feel like I literally can just get to it as soon as the phone call starts, right? Yeah, we can have our pleasantries, our niceties, our informal, hey, how you doing? But I've already kind of prepared myself to to switch, right? Yeah, I compartmentalize. I wear many hats. So sometimes I'm, be the mom, um, be the daughter, be the auntie, be the cousin, be the worker, be the this, be the that, but just to be, right? Just to be me. Um, Sometimes it takes some time to kind of switch that off, to switch off from mommy brain, from dropping the kids off or whatever, and, getting back home or what have you. And so that's what it was today. It was like, oh, I'm not going to have time to do this at home, because I'll barely be pulling up to the house by the time this starts, right? Because this call is a call. Today was a call, a therapy call. So, once I've gotten more than halfway to the house, I was like, yeah, I just need a few minutes just to warm myself up, just to give myself that icebreaker to transition from mommy mode, right? Where all that matters is mommy. Transition out of daughter mode, where, transition out of all the other modes that I might be in, to just be Brandy as a whole. Like, not anything specific, but just all that encompasses being me with all the hats, right? Take all the hats off and just be a whole being. Don't hone in on any one particular thing. And as I say, how do you feel about this? How are you feeling? When I check in with myself, it's an opportunity to check myself as well, because it's like, oh, did I, um, do I need to order more snacks for the kids? It's like, that's not a priority. Not right now. Not in preparation for therapy. You can definitely do that afterwards. So I can check those thoughts to make sure I'm getting to the root of it, so I don't fluff myself. Um, but I feel like it's important to check in with myself, to transition myself from one headspace to the next. That way, when a seemingly stranger, depending on how long you've worked with the people, your mental health professional, you really can just get to it. And I feel like all of the mental health professionals that I've worked with since starting with checking in with myself, um, I think they appreciate it, because you don't have to pull teeth to get answers to questions, because I'm already kind of there. It's like, I I want to do work to better me. So yeah, first thing I do is I check in with myself, and I use that app as an opportunity to transition headspaces from whatever version of myself, whatever side of myself I'm operating in prior to that call or that meeting or that appointment. I can transition into that space in my own time comfortably, without any kind of feeling guilty. Let myself know this is the time for self-care. This is the time for self-reflection, self-growth, and healing. And you deserve it, and you're worthy of it. And to kind of let myself ease into that space. When I find myself in that space where I realize it's necessary to speak about myself in whatever way comes most organically, I'm also I'm also setting boundaries. Um, the longer I've been in therapy, the more I notice unhealthy habits that I have. So even when I check in, I don't give myself free range to practice bad habits, right? So negative self-talk, talking down to myself, just blame, shame, guilt, those don't play a part in my check-in. I can recognize something that I'm unhappy with. I'm not a fan of how I initiated it, how I carried it through, how I concluded it. That's fine. But to ruminate over it, that's not what that space is created for. I also set boundaries for myself, because in being overzealous at times, I might want to cover so much territory. And even though I might feel that it's pressing, I do myself a disservice of thinking I can get all of this stuff unpacked in a short amount of time. So what I do is, while I'm allowing myself to check in and feel how I'm feeling, I try to give enough attention to, wow, that really did bother me. And maybe just if you think of like the web diagrams, how everything kind of connects. So this happened today in a circle. And you know what? That really caused me some anxiety for the day, or that really has been tripped me up for the day. And whatever stuff might have been connected to it or had led to it, connect those things, like, oh, you know what, my dog died, or they cut the power off, or I got a flat tire, or all those other circumstances surrounding it or leading up to it. They're all valid, right, for me, because everything's connected with me. And so in that time, it gives me insight to stuff that first came up, right? When I check in with myself, what's the first thing that pops up that has nothing to do with any hat that I wear, right? Um it's like the prelude for me for therapy. And it doesn't feel good to revisit things that didn't go well, but it feels good to give myself space to check in with myself. Another way that you can do it is by self-care. So whatever it is that you can do, and it doesn't have to be anything specific. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to get my nails done, something you have to pay for. Like for me, there's certain fruit that I like during certain times of the year. So love pears. They can be sweet, they can be tart, they can be bitter, they can be soft, they can be crisp. But I can just snack on them. And because all I have to do is rinse them off and eat them, they're the best. Um, Other stuff I have to prep, so it's not as fun. Like cucumbers, I like cucumbers, but I gotta wash them and slice them, put a little seasoning on them. Grape tomatoes are great, but I can't have too much acid. Um, so yeah, emotional eater, if you didn't know. And so it's easy for me to kind of grab something that feels good, or makes me feel good, or tastes good, or reminds me of something, or a time when it was good. Music can do that sometimes. Um, Certain episodes can do that certain times. Um, Sometimes just running up the stairs, running up and down the stairs, just to get that heart racing, to get that whatever, different things I do. And so you can do that too before you decide to do maybe like a check-in that do some kind of self-care. Take a bath, drink some tea, drink some coffee, um, go for a walk. If you have fresh flowers around, take fresh flowers. Look up the quote of the day, look up the memory verse of the day. I have a combination of things that I've incorporated into my day that for me qualify as self-care. So, having fruit around that I like, and I get the kids what they like, but having what I like, the healthy and the unhealthy, right? So I do have pears, there's some grapes in there, some strawberries in there, cucumbers in there. I don't think I have eggplant today. We have fruit snacks. um I like the pudding that have the chocolate and the vanilla with the swirl in the middle. Um, yeah, just it's for me. It's food because it's easy for that. Um, but also the quote of the day. I have a couple different places that I go to get a really inspirational quote, very funny quote, a real down to earth quote. Um, I also have three different sources for memory verses, Bible verses, meditation verses. Um, so even if I don't get everything done at the beginning of the day, it happens throughout the day. So I find myself giving myself moments to have these moments, needless to say. Um, so yeah, and what I do to prepare for therapy, um, on the day, like the day of, up to an hour before, is I check in with myself. I have a conversation with myself to see how I'm feeling, to help me transition into a particular headspace, and I set boundaries so that the overzealous side of me doesn't sabotage the effectiveness of the session. Um, and I also try to make sure there's something that I can eat prior to, during, or after. After therapy, and this takes pre planning, um, there's something that I do, say, feel, or don't do, or don't say, or don't feel after therapy that kind of solidifies it. I never want to have a successful session where things come out, things are unpacked, things are addressed, and it completely gets negated at the end of the call, at the end of the session, at the end of the meeting, depending on what services I'm receiving. So today, I have my pair after. Um, I gave myself something to do. I gave myself something to do that I knew I could do. I set a task that I knew I could complete. Um, so it would make me feel good, right? So I wanted to get a laundry load completed before therapy. So what I did is um I put a load in the washing machine before I took my son to school. And before the call, um it was on the spin cycle. These are clothes that don't need to be dried because they're hung dry. Literally put them up to hang to dry. Technically, that job is done. I felt good because I was able to get something accomplished that was important to me before the call. I'm treating myself with something that I want to eat. Lucky for me, it's healthy, so it's a double win. Other things that I've done at the conclusion of therapy is to kind of treat myself and to kind of allow me to sit in that space of success or of growth or healing or whatever the outcome was of the session. Um, is I'll plan my appointments, right? And when I say appointments, it's anything. It can be going to see a family member or a friend. It could be a gig. It could be a meeting. It could be anything. But it's something that was pre-planned, right? And so I use appointments because it helps me to remember that even though I don't have a job, right? I don't go to work. Um, that my day just isn't wasted. I have chores and I have responsibilities and I have appointments, right? And so I'll set an appointment with somebody who I really enjoy spending time with, right? I can always spend time with the people I want to because my schedule, I can't dictate their schedule. Uh, but it'll be a phone call, a video chat, or they're on their way to me, and they'll be here by the time we'll meet at a certain place or I'll go meet them. So that literally is not something that I have to follow up on. It's just something that happens, right? So say, hey, I'm gonna go to breakfast with my sister, right, at 10:15 because the place that I'm going is, only around the corner from where I'm gonna be. I literally can get off, you know, if it's a telephone service like today, if it's a phone call, I can get off the phone, get in the car and go. Like, up, this is where I'm going and be there, right? And just be able to enjoy that person's company. It could be a show that I've been watching and it's like, nope, you're not going to watch this, especially comedy specials. Freaking love those. And I'm like, no, you're going to finish this call and you're going to enjoy this comedy special that everybody told you was amazing, right? Gives me an opportunity to laugh, or just something that I really, really, really enjoy doing. Or I give myself freedom to be spontaneous. Um, and one thing I do that I feel is very successful for me is I remind myself I'm not obligated to explain my journey and my process to anyone. You wanting to share what you're doing, what you've been going through, how you've been working on it is totally your decision. But I no longer make myself sick or drive myself mad feeling obligated to explain to people what has happening in therapy, how I'm going or any of that. It's my personal journey and I will share that when I feel, if I feel. Um so yeah, in a nutshell, I prepare for therapy by warming myself up, icebreakers, checking in with myself, ushering myself into a particular headspace that I feel is most beneficial for me to receive and to share. I set boundaries on myself. I don't allow for my overzealous side of my personality to take control, because I might want to talk about a lot of things, but I have to be mindful of the time and I want to be successful. And if I allow myself time and patience to get to the things that need to be got to, I'm good. So I don't allow myself to disregard. So the first thought came up is, oh, I got into an accident, right? Hold on. there we go. If the first thought I have is, oh my God, I got into an accident. Well, no, that's dire. I saw somebody have an accident and it brought up these emotions of that time when, because it's the first thing that came up, is relevant. And I might not realize how important it is until I have that time to speak it over with somebody, right? To help me unpack, why was that the first thing that came to my mind? Why is that such a big thing? Um, but I don't disregard it. If it's the first thing that came up, it's the first thing I'm going to share. If anything else comes subsequently after, or I feel like something else is connected to it, it's fine. But in the same way that I'm connecting and checking in with myself, those things are coming to me. um, I'm going to make sure I share those things. Because if it came up to me while I'm checking in with myself, it's definitely something that I want to discuss with my mental health provider, right? So yeah, I check in with myself. I set boundaries for myself. And if need be, I prepare some type of self-care prior to the call. And in conclusion, following, at the end of the session, I have pre-planned self-care. And that takes time. Um, I actually started pre-planning my self-care immediately following therapy, to help make it was really an incentive. Like, hey, it was kind of like a treat. Like, oh my God, you really want to do this? You should do this because then you'll deserve it. Um, I was so excited for the self-care aspect that follows therapy that it made me excited for therapy, which made checking in with myself more effective. It kind of all ties in. So checking in with myself, setting boundaries for the session ahead. Excuse me. Checking in with myself to transition myself into the desired headspace, and setting boundaries, because setting boundaries so that I don't allow my nature to be overzealous, to self-sabotage my session. And conclusion of the session, I gift myself an opportunity to experience some kind of self-care. The freer, the better. And just a tip that I have to remind myself on is, I'm not responsible for sharing my journey with anyone, because it's my journey. It doesn't require a narrative. That is not a requirement for my journey. And I don't make myself feel obligated to tell people. If I share with you that I am in therapy, it is just to set that boundary, or it's a warning, or it's just something I wanted to share. But what happens in therapy, what's shared in therapy, what's discovered in therapy is nobody's business, if I don't choose to share it with them. And so, regardless if you're in formal therapy or any form of mental health services, you can do this. I'm doing it. Um, I say it in church often. I do not look like what I've been through, and I thank God for it. People might not see your scars. They might be very much so invisible to the naked eye. If you could see the internal turmoil and just tumultuous things that have gone on in my life, you would see that I'm barely holding together a few pieces with some duct tape. If I look like what I've been through, I'd be dead. And that's all I feel comfortable with sharing. And I think that that's okay. So I hope you find value in what I have shared. If not for you, for someone else. I hope you have an amazing day full of blessings and gratefulness. You are amazing. You are wonderful. You are loved. You are necessary. You are essential to life as you know it and as you don't. And I hope today you have a reflection of something new in you that you've been sharing to the world that you did not know. Have a great day.